called me a lying piece of shit. So, this is the person that my Christian brother interrupted.
Yeah, but which part of that is not true?
Then my question.
Anyway, just before you carry on, I'll leave you to him. If you want more information than I'm about.
Yeah, I'll come find you.
But wisdom, you're not going to get it here.
Right. So
What's your name, bro?
Kieran.
Nice to meet you, Kieran.
And yours?
Bob.
Bob.
I go by Bob here.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And
what brought you to the park?
I'm working for Pink. Not for Pink, but doing with the...
What, with the thing that's going off there? Fair enough. Yeah.
So I just thought, I've always, because I've watched it, and I thought, I'll come down and see what it's like in here.
Yeah.
It's been an experience.
It is an experience. It's quite an intense environment. Last week, a whole bunch of Christians got attacked. I don't know whether you saw that.
I haven't.
Exactly. Are you aware that a Muslim tried to murder a Christian here with a knife?
Well, I don't condone that at all.
Exactly. My point to you is...
Then...
Go on.
Wow.
What? There's a Christian...
I don't condone it.
I mean...
On the face of it.
Yes. Are you saying there's room for stabbing people in the park?
Not stabbing, but if it was to turn into a physical... say you done something to me, yeah?
Like, say...
I'd retaliate.
So say someone pushed you.
Then I'd push you back.
Right, so that's what happened last week. A sheikh who was losing an argument against me pushed me.
Okay.
I pushed him back.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of Muslims attacked 3 Christians.
Okay.
Beat them, knocked them to the floor.
Okay, but... Yes. Yeah.
My point to you is, Kieran, right, we live in a society, right, where it's been cultivated within our culture to look at Islam with filtered glasses on.
Yeah.
Right? Where criticism of Islam is something that leads people to say, oh, you're bigoted or you're prejudiced or you've got Islamophobia. But criticism of Christianity doesn't receive the same condemnation or the same criticism. And the reason for that is because the elites, the people that have control of the media, the control of the economy, the control of the government, they benefit from the fact that they benefit from a lack of civil strife.
Okay.
But the result of that is that crimes are being overlooked in this country, perpetrated on the basis, yes, of course, on the basis of Christophobic prejudice against Christians by some Muslims. Please note I said some, not all. Because there are some Muslims that have a deep-rooted Christophobia.
But there's some...
And they actually represent...
Christians that have a deep-rooted Islamophobia.
Yes.
Who would walk down the street and see a Muslim and would attack the Muslim just for being a Muslim.
Can you evidence that claim?
Huh?
Can you evidence that claim?
No, I'm not saying it's happened, but I'm saying
right, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Just last Sunday, you can see on Soko Films, you can see on Revelation 22, Muslims attack a bunch of Christians in this park. You can Google the persecution of Christians right throughout the Middle East, right throughout the Muslim world. Pick any Muslim country at random. I challenge you to do it right now. Pick any Muslim country at random and just type Christians persecuted in such and such a country and see what comes up.
Let's go. It's a big Muslim country.
Pick Indonesia, that's the biggest.
Okay.
Peace with you all. Good to see you. Persecuted Christians, Indonesia.
About persecuted. Sorry,
P-E-R-S-E-C-U-T-E-D.
Christian persecution.
Right? And you found something, look.
According to the United States Commission on International Religious Freedoms, Christians in Burma, China, don't know where that is.
Pakistan, India, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Vietnam. But if you want to find sorry, I'm just trying to help you. Can I move down? Yeah. There you go. Praying for persecuted Christians in Indonesia. Click on that. Here you go. You pick that country. Peace be with you, brother. All right. I'll always have more water today.
I'll get back 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Signal.
Right.
Too many people.
My point is, Kieran, do this research at home. Just do this thought experiment. Get a dartboard of the Islamic world, chuck an arrow at it, see which country it lands in, then Google persecuted Christians in country X, like you did with Indonesia. And you're going to find in every single one, Christians are being persecuted.
Weren't other religions, while Christianity was at its peak, i.e. the Crusades, and stuff like
Do you
that.
know what? Do you know
were
Yes.
other religions, whilst they were on their crusades,
Yeah.
attacked?
So let me reply to that. Do you know what the Crusades were about?
Well, they were supposed to be to protect pilgrims on their pilgrimage.
Exactly. They were a
But then they
response.
got-
One second. They were a response to 7 centuries of Islamic aggression. Syria was a Christian country when Muslims conquered it. Egypt was a Christian country when Muslims conquered it. What we call Algeria today was a Christian country when Muslims conquered it. Cyprus was a Christian country when Muslims conquered it. Sicily was a Christian country when Muslims conquered it. Portugal, Spain, and France were all Christian
Didn't
countries.
Christians kick the Jews out of Portugal and Spain, and the Muslims give them a place to stay.
I'll deal with that. But firstly,
so why is the persecution of Christians in a Muslim country wrong, but back in the day Christians persecuted Jews for being in a country?
So why is it when a Muslim talks about Islamophobia, you don't point out their persecution of Christians?
Because every religion has its downfall.
But why don't you do that? You just did it to me.
I'm accepting that there's persecution of Christians in Islamic countries, but my argument is it was done to other religions.
Let me reply.
In history.
Yeah.
Why is it now an issue? Because it's happening to the Christians, but the Christians were perfectly.
Oh, are you saying it's not an issue? Are you saying we shouldn't care?
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't care. I'm saying.
So what we're saying is we shouldn't be as fervent in opposing persecution today because of persecution that happened 1,000 years ago.
No, what I'm saying is the persecution then was wrong, and the persecution now is
right.
wrong.
So are we living now or 1,000 years ago?
Well, we're living now.
So what should we be talking about?
The persecution is happening now.
Right. And who's that happening to?
Oh, Christians.
There you go.
But my argument is, the whole thing stems, right? Karma.
So Christians deserve it?
No, I'm not saying they deserve it. I'm not saying.
Kieran?
It will always come back.
Yeah.
Something will always come back to bite you on the ass, whether it's you or a descendant.
Kieran, so that's what you saw with the brother that jumped in with that Muslim.
Yes.
That Muslim who called me to you in front of you, and you didn't call him out on it, I hasten to remind you, called me a lying piece of shit. Who you
didn't say to me,
yeah, but you heard him, but you called out my brother for challenging him, but you didn't call him out for calling me a lying piece of shit. My point is, that brother, and my point is, Kieran, here's what I want to propose to you, is that you've been conditioned by society out there to see all of these issues through a filtered prism. And that filtered prism is like little lenses over your eyes, which means that you're colorblind. You're seeing some things and you're not seeing others. What I'm encouraging you to do is take off the goggles and see the world as it actually is. He's not an actor. I arrived, he called me a lying piece of shit, and I never even spoke to him. You witnessed that, but you, out of the 2 people to call out, you called out the Christian that interrupted the Muslim, not the Muslim who called the Christian who just arrived in the conversation.
What was going on?
But is it justified?
All I knew.
But you didn't know.
And then he went in, and I was like,
exactly, Kieran.
He was trying to talk to me, and then all of a sudden,
exactly, Kieran.
he's come in. And
exactly,
I was like,
Kieran.
What's happened here?
So, and this is my point: is that you don't understand what's happening in this corner. You don't understand why the Christian behaved in the way that he did, because you don't know the context. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now you've already said you're going to go back to this guy and he's going to try and talk to you about Islam.
I said I'd see him in a bit. I didn't.
I guarantee he's going to try and talk to you about Islam.
Okay.
That's what he's going to do. Because in this corner, the da'i I come here for 6 years. I've come here for 6 years as a Christian.
This is my first time here.
Yeah.
So.
And I that's fine. And welcome. I hope you have a really lovely, happy and safe day.
Some things have been a bit, I'm like...
Yeah, it's a very confrontational environment, this place, right? So I've debated nearly all the regular Muslims in this park. Did it for 3 years, beat them in every argument. You can see the debates yourself on Soko Films. I'll give you my card, you can see it on my channel as well, right? The reality is that they now boycott us. The reason why these 2 Muslims decided to disengage when I arrived is because they don't want to debate me. They only want to talk to people like you. People who, by your own admission, don't know what's going on. By your own admission, don't know the facts.
I come here to learn from everyone.
Right, well now's your opportunity to learn from a Christian. What do you want to learn?
I'm what they call, what is it called? An agnostic.
Yeah.
Where I believe there's something, but
yeah.
I don't believe you, I don't believe the Jews, I don't believe the Muslims,
Yeah.
but I believe in my own way that there's something that caused everything to be, for me to be here.
Right, so you're slightly more than an agnostic, because agnosticism is to say that you don't know what is, you don't know what to believe. That's agnosticism. Okay. But you've stated that you do have a belief, which is that you believe in a creator.
Yeah.
And I reward you for, I applaud you for it.
It's just common. It's just.
This is for you, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's just. I'd put it down to common sense. Like for you to be here,
Yep.
you needed a creator.
Yes.
You needed your mum and dad.
Yes.
They're your creators.
Yes, and that chain goes backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. And despite what anyone will tell you, we Christians believe in one God. Yeah, and we believe that one God has created all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we believe that God has spoken in history. That he's not just God who's created something, tinkered with it, and then walked away from the creation. He's someone who has come into the world, and he has interacted with the world.
I just can't get the whole.
Go on.
Jesus being. Because some will say, oh yeah, Jesus is God in human form.
Yeah.
But then that means God's both up there and down here at the same time, which can't happen.
Why not?
Because you can't have something in two places at one time.
Who said?
Well, can you be here and over in the toilets at the same time?
But am I God?
Well, no, but Jesus turned around and said, I am.
Yes.
So, meaning he is God.
Correct.
So
you got it. That's absolutely right.
So
that's exactly what he was saying.
God here and God up there.
Because God is omnipresent. God doesn't have the kind of spatial temporal limits that me and you have.
Okay.
No Christian believes that God has spatial temporal limits unless he chooses to take those things to himself, which he does in Jesus Christ, in that he takes to himself a humanity, but that doesn't take away from his divinity, because we don't believe as Christians that the divine changed into a human. It's like you putting on clothes doesn't stop you from being human, but the clothes do limit what I can see of you. Okay. Depending on the clothes you choose, they'll limit how fast or slow you can run.
Yeah.
Your clothes affect you. Yeah? That tattoo that you've put on, hasn't changed you as a human being, has it?
Oh no.
No. But it has changed your appearance.
Yeah.
So it's changed your attribute of appearance. And so what we Christians believe is that without changing any of his divinity, Christ took to himself a humanity. And insofar as we interact with Christ's humanity...
So who died? The man or the God?
Quite clearly, we Christians say the humanity died on the cross. Because God can't die. You know? So my point to you is, though, but here's the thing, right? The point of Jesus coming to earth is because he's establishing truth in himself, a truth that because he is a real person in real history, we can tell his story. And his story can then be translated into every language, right? By contrast, Muslims will tell you that Allah spoke in a book, and that book is the Quran, and that Quran exists only in Arabic, which means that unless you either learn Arabic unless you learn Arabic, you can't even read God's word, because Muslims will tell you the Quran can't be translated. Now, what kind of message is it that isn't what kind of way is it for God to speak if it's not a universal way? If I said to you, "Confitio de omnipotente,"
Jesus wouldn't have spoken English.
No, but so let me restate it again, because I don't think you picked it up. The fact that Jesus became a human being meant that other people could tell his story.
Yeah.
It's his story that is the message.
Yeah.
It's the life of Jesus that is the message. The words are part of that life, but it's the actual life itself that is the message.
But the message is a translation as well. The message is a translation of translation.
So the message is a person, not a book. If you're thinking that the Christian faith is saying, believe in a book, that's not what I'm inviting you to do. As a Christian, I'm inviting you to believe in a real historical person.
Asking to believe in Jesus, but to believe in Jesus, you need to read about Jesus.
Do you think the first Christians read about Jesus?
Oh, no, they would have been taught by Jesus.
But were they Christians?
Oh, no, they were Jews.
No.
No, they were Gentiles.
No. So the first Christians were followers of the Messiah. They were Jewish.
Yeah.
but they called themselves Christians.
Okay.
Or well, rather, they were called Christians and they took that name to themselves. And they did that while it was still a Jewish community. So they were Jewish by ethnicity, they were Christian by religion, right? But my point to you is, they didn't read a book to believe in Jesus. And actually, the very first Christians that they went on to convert didn't have a New Testament.
Yeah.
What they had was the teaching of the apostles. So the kind of faith that I'm inviting you to is not like Islam. I'm inviting you to a different kind of faith, to Islam.
But then the biggest argument I have is Mark, Luke, John.
Yep.
There's another one.
Matthew.
Who were they?
Right.
Because
So
they weren't eyewitnesses. There was no way that they were eyewitnesses.
how do you know that?
Because when was it written down?
Right, hold on one second. How long have you been alive?
24 years.
Right. Can you write about something that happened 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Let's say, God willing, you live into your 60s.
Yeah.
Can you write something that happened 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Were you an eyewitness?
What, 30 years from now? 30 years ago from today?
Yeah.
No.
No, so you're saying, well, so hold on one second. So you're saying that you can't write about an event that you experienced 30 years ago as an eyewitness?
If I was alive 30 years ago, then yes.
Right, but that's what I'm saying to you. If you're 60 years old, let's say, and you write about something that you experienced 30 years ago, is it fair to say it was an eyewitness account?
Well, yeah, it could be, yeah.
Right. So, in terms of Matthew and John, that's exactly what they are.
Okay.
They were eyewitnesses.
So that's 50%.
Right? So, Mark and Luke were written. So, Mark, we know, was the traveling companion of Peter. He was as it were, the church fathers call him the translator of Peter.
Okay.
And what that means is he heard Peter's sermons. Peter was the eyewitness.
Yeah.
Mark was not the eyewitness. But Mark heard the sermons of Peter and then wrote them down. And that's why we call Mark's gospel Mark. Right? Luke was a traveling companion of Paul and the other apostles like Barnabas, but particularly Paul. And with Paul, he would have met the other apostles who are eyewitnesses. And he, out of all the apostles, does a more deliberate collecting of the stories that are known in the community and putting them together in a chronological order, because he's writing for someone who...
Why is there contradictions in,
right,
say, Matthew to John?
Yeah.
Say Matthew might say,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to throw something random. Say,
Right.
Matthew might say,
yes.
Jesus took 4 fish
Yes.
and turned them into to feed the 500.
Yeah.
But John says he took 7 fish.
Yes.
So why is there the contradiction?
Okay,
If one's an eyewitness and one's basically an eyewitness of an eyewitness, then surely they should be the same.
Right, so that's a fair question. I'll give you a fair answer. You can actually see something equivalent to this. If you go and look at our videos and other people's videos about the same event, they capture different parts of the picture.
Okay.
So if from one picture you might see 20 people were involved in something.
Yeah.
From another picture it might look like 18, or from another one it might only look like 7.
Yeah.
From another one it might look 5.
From the perspective. Yeah.
From the perspective, right? The other point is that all of the cameramen in this corner, except for this one, right, all of them edit their videos.
Okay.
So he's the only one that doesn't do any editing on his videos.
So you just made you edit your videos?
Yeah, of course. I'm not denying it. There's nothing wrong with editing your videos. What's wrong with that?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
you're looking...
It depends what you're editing. But
So my point is, when someone edits a video, they're editing a video because they're trying to focus in on a narrative. They're trying to highlight a particular point.
Yeah.
So they're drawing something to the fore. So if you look at Revelation 22's video of last week's attack, right, he edits the video to emphasize the fact that I was pushed first.
Okay.
It's a fact, I was pushed first, but he edits the video to emphasize, to underline, to underscore, to highlight the fact that I was pushed first. And so that's what's happening in the Gospels. There's editing of the story to highlight theological points. That's not lying. And so when details contradict, what you're looking for is like an unedited video.
In a court of law, that's lying.
No, it isn't.
Of course it is. If you come up to the stand and say one thing, and I come up and say something completely different, who's telling the truth?
It depends. Well, that's the point. Both can be telling the same truth. So, for example, if me and you go away, and this brother here, and anyone else who watches this, if we go away and write our account of what happened today, like my initial introduction, right? If we go away and write down an account of what happened in the four of us, do you think that all of our details will agree?
Well, no, because I didn't get the bit about...
Exactly.
From the argument across.
Exactly. But does that mean you're lying?
No.
Does it mean I'm lying?
No.
There you go. So it doesn't mean that someone's lying just because there are editorial differences or differences of emphasis. The reality is that you can have details in conflict and still have two true stories.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Now, go on, what other kind of questions do you want? This is an interesting conversation. So let's come back to Jesus, right? Because what I'm saying to you is that the fact that Jesus became a man, that God became a man in our Lord Jesus Christ, he took to himself a humanity, it means that the Christian faith has a universal message that can be immediately translated to everyone because it's about the message, not the words.
But does that not then make, because obviously you have your cross and you have a picture of Jesus and stuff, does that not then go against the first commandment?
Do you know what the first commandment is?
Worship no one but the one...
Yeah, I am the Lord your God, and you shall have no other gods before me, and you shall...
Or idols. Or surely a cross with Jesus depicted on it is an ideological figure, is an ideological statue.
It is an idol, is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, is an idol.
Right.
So surely that should then pray into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You're then praying to an idol.
So let me reply to that, because...
Praying to Jesus as God, but you're using an idol to go through.
So let me...
like a Ouija board sort of thing.
So let me reply to that. Peace be with you, bro. Good to see you. So let me reply to that, because a lot of people misunderstand what the Bible's actually saying on this. So let me show you. All right. I'll stand this way so that. Do you want to come a bit closer so I can show you? Right. So you're referring to this in Scripture. You're referring to Exodus. How are we doing?
Nice to meet you, Bob. My name's Serena. I just wanted to have a quick word with you because I'm a rather regular speaker's corner.
I will definitely come and talk to you, yeah. I'm just in the middle of a conversation, and then I'll come and find you afterwards. Is that all right? Yeah. So, let me just show you, right? So you're referring to this. You shall not make for yourself an idol of or any likeness of what is in heaven above or on earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers onto the children.
Yeah.
Right, now let me show you something. The same God that gave that command commanded this. So let me show you. Yeah. Bear with us. Right, so in the same book, look, so that this now we've moved 5 chapters.
Okay.
The same God that gave that command is now saying this. Listen very carefully. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. You shall make 2 cherubim. Do you know what cherubim are?
Yeah, cherubs. Yeah.
What are they?
Like
angels.
Baby angels.
You shall no, they're not baby angels.
No, they look like babies.
They're not. They don't look like babies. That's just art.
Oh, well, okay.
They're just angels.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Cherubim of gold, make them hammered work at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Now tell me, is a seat something on earth?
Yeah.
Or angels something in heaven?
Yeah.
So the God that said,
so he's
no, he's not, because look carefully at what he's saying. He's saying that you shall not worship them or serve them. So what he's saying is that you don't take them as a God. You don't put them in the center of your life and build your life around them and treat them as a God. That's what he's saying. So the commandment is not saying that images are forbidden. It's saying that the treating images like a God is forbidden. Okay. And no Christian, thank you so much, and no Christian does that.
More questions later?
Yes, bro. So no Christian does that. Now the point is, bro, I want to come back to you on Kevin, Because in our conversation, you've come out with very honest questions, but you've obviously absorbed these arguments from somewhere, haven't you?
No, it's just from reading and from...
Yeah, exactly. So you read something.
Reading. And because me and my mum have debates, because she was raised a strong Catholic.
Yeah.
And like,
so in that dialogue, so what I'm trying to say to you is that there's a lot of misunderstanding about the Christian faith. A lot of people talk into even a lot of Christians talk about the Christian faith when they don't understand it. And sadly, because a lot of Christians talk about the Christian faith when they don't understand it, a lot of people also talk about the Christian faith when they don't understand it either. So it's important for you to speak to a person who actually knows his own faith.
But then I don't know what that one is.
Yeah, this is a Bible.
I know that's a Bible, but
yeah,
there's how many versions?
Right, so let's talk about that then.
Why does some have, I don't know, flick to a chapter and it'll have that chapter,
yeah.
You go to another and it'll go from that chapter and that verse won't be in there, that chapter won't be in there.
Right.
So why is that then a contradiction in itself again?
Again, no it isn't. So what you're talking about is textual variants. So let me show you a textual variant. All right? Okay. Bear with us. Bear with us 1 second. Right. Right, so
I'm not being rude, it's just
okay.
My work at message.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I want to show you a textual variant, okay? And this is again a misunderstanding of what Christianity is about, because you think that a textual variant somehow disproves the Christian faith. I'm going to show to you it doesn't. Okay? So every verse, basically from here on, from 14 onwards, every verse of that, all of it is a textual variant. You'll find some Bibles that don't include these words. I am happy to read that Bible and treat it like a Bible, just as I am happy to read this Bible and treat this like a Bible. Why? Because textual variants, and even biblical scholars like Dr. Bart Ehrman, who's a critic of Christianity, like he's not a friend of Christianity, right? And he talks about textual variants all the time. But even he says that no textual variant of any kind in the New Testament affect any doctrine of the Christian faith. None. And I've just shown you a whopper, right? It's how many verses? 19 verses. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 6 verses. And not a single Christian doctrine is fundamentally affected by that teaching. Do you know why? Because every Christian doctrine that I believe in rests upon more than one verse of the Bible.
Yeah, but it's not just the one. It's not just the one verse.
That's the quote from Bart Ehrman. The position I argue for in this quoting Jesus does not actually stand at odds with the Methodist position that the essential Christian beliefs are not affected by the textual variants in the manuscript tradition of the New Testament. And he's an enemy of Christianity. He's an enemy of Christianity.
Yeah.
Listen to this man.
So my point to you is, the brother's just read you a quote. As you can see, there are Christians who come down here, and we tackle these Muslims in this park every single week, like that one there. Like, we know one another. Like, that's why he referred to me as a lying bag of shit, because he knows me, right? Not because I am a lying bag of shit, but he knows my face, right? So my point to you is that the brother just showed you the very scholar that's known for talking about textual variants. Do you want to stand this way so I'm in the sun and you can... There you go. Right? So he's talking about the textual variants, and he's saying that nothing about the Christian faith is affected by them, because everything that I believe as a Christian is found in multiple verses.
The more verses that are missing, surely that
Yes, you've got it.
Devalues. Devalues the authenticity and the teachings that are coming from that book.
So if I had a cup of orange juice, pure orange juice, undiluted, and then I poured in a whole lot of water, at some point that water would overtake the orange juice. You're absolutely right that if it was the case that lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of verses had vanished, then our faith would be lost. But
then does it not throw the
can I finish?
Sorry, yeah.
But every study of textual variants, every study of the textual variants of the New Testament shows that the problem that Christians have is not that we've lost lots of verses, but we've gained some extra verses, and the extra verses that we've gained, we can identify. We can say what they are, where they are, and like we can point them out. So that's actually the problem that we have. The actual problem that Christians face is not that we lost lots of verses, it's that we've gained a handful of verses that we now recognize were added later.
But is that so?
Like that one I just showed you.
So you saying about one being added?
Yeah.
What's to say that you don't write a verse?
Yeah.
And head it as Luke, and in I don't know another 300 years when you're gone.
Yeah.
And they dig up your time capsule and they find that verse.
Yeah.
How are they going to prove that what you've wrote is fact?
Right. So I'll answer that question very directly. But firstly, I just want to point out that it's all right to think a thought, but just because you... Thank you so much. It's all right to think a thought, but just because you think it doesn't mean that it's true.
Okay.
Right? If you're going to make a hypothesis, it's on you to prove it.
Yeah.
Right? So people that turn around to me and say you can't trust the Bible because it's been changed, I always ask them, well, show me why the change means I can't trust it. Right? Sorry.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, we're having a conversation.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll let you stop him.
Well, we were having a conversation now. So. But he's just lying. Well, that's your opinion. I'm open to listen.
Look at his trousers.
Look at your waistband. What's his trousers got to do with? What's his appearance got to do with anything?
Brother, so you see what just happened there? That's why the brother at the earlier point of the conversation dived in.
Yeah.
Because we experience that kind of behaviour week in, week out, every single week. Yeah. So far, you've been here one day for how many hours? You don't need to ask that literally.
About 2.5.
2.5 hours. And so far, you've heard one Muslim call me a lying bag of shit. That brother is also a Muslim, and he's come up to you and told you, he's interrupted and he's called me a liar. So now do you begin to see why the Christian brother behaved like he did?
Yeah.
You're seeing it now, right? Take the goggles off, see with your own eyes. Now,
as long as I don't get sweat in them.
Well, you and me both, my friend, you and me both. Right? I can offer you a cold tissue if you want.
No, I'm good.
So, my point to you is, right, when we look at the textual variants of the New Testament, we have 5,000 Greek manuscripts, we have 10,000 Latin manuscripts, and we have 5,000 manuscripts of the New Testament translated into other languages like ancient Slavonic, Ethiopic Coptic, Assyrian, Arabian, Ethiopian, as well as a number of other languages, including Armenian and so on and so forth. So that means we've got what Dr. Daniel Wallace calls an embarrassment of riches, right? So Christian scholars can look at all of these lots of manuscripts and they can conclude a number of things. Let me just quickly run over what those conclusions are. Conclusion number one, that not one of those manuscripts is identical.
Yeah.
Not one of 20,000, and none of them match. Number two, that 99% of the differences between the manuscripts amount to the differences between spelling. Okay. It's like, how do you spell John? Jon, John, Jonn, Jone. Well, that would spell Joe. Johne, right? There's only one way you can translate that. You translate it as John.
Yeah.
And that accounts for 99% of all the textual variants that you could possibly think of, which leaves us with 1%. And that 1%, thank you, that 1% gets divided into two.
Yeah.
Those that are translatable, those that are translatable but meaningless, and those that are translatable and meaningful.
Okay.
So it's like saying, Kieran joined the Christian Union at university, right? And then in another manuscript it says, Kieran joined the Christian Union at university. Is there such a thing as a Christian onion?
I don't know, maybe put holy water on it?
No. There's no such thing as a Christian onion. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that means that even though there's two documents with two statements,
the message is the same.
only one of them is meaningful, the Christian Union one. Because everybody knows there's no such thing as a Christian onion. So that reduces that 1% now to less than 1%. And that less than 1% are examples like I just shown you.
Okay.
6 verses. I can show you other verses, there are other verses, but you've got 6 verses in Mark, you've got a handful of verses in John, you've got one in like the first epistle of John, but none of them, and scholars agree on this, none of them affect any Christian doctrine. So that means that yes, we have to admit that the Bible has had some changes to it, but yes, we can also say with confidence, you can trust the Bible.
It's more written changes. It doesn't change the message.
Yeah.
The message is the same. So if I want to copy that book but it's a different language, then I make an error as I'm translating. That doesn't mean that the book is valid.
Think about it this way. Could you write a letter to your mother that communicated the same information in more than one way?
Yeah.
There you go. So, and this is that when you think like that, my friend, then you'll be able to see that none of these problems that you have absorbed as problems about the Bible actually stand up to scrutiny. Okay. And that's why as a Christian I can stand here with confidence and say that the Bible is trustworthy. Okay. Yeah? Because you can write a message to your mum in 10 different ways and communicate the same information. And even though you've written it in 10 different ways, they're all going to say the same thing. You can write a letter to your mum and someone might copy that letter and then copy it again and 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 copy it again. In each one of those copies, they change a word or a sentence or a letter. But if someone comes along with a bit of nouns in their head, they can get those 10 documents, they can compare all the 10 documents, and because the changes don't match, they can identify what was the original letter. And that's what Christians do. Yeah? Dr. Nestle, I forget the name, but they wrote the Nestle Holland textual instrument, which is a Greek composition of all the variant Greek texts, right? They said that out of all the variants that they could consider, there's only one that scholars could not be, that could not have, that there was only one that they could not agree upon as being certainly original. Okay. That isn't to mean that there aren't lots of variants. There are. I mean, if you look at the Nestle Holland, it lists them, thousands and thousands of them. But none of them affect the message. And that's why we Christians trust the Bible. Okay. Yeah? But my point to you is, the Bible is a witness to the real message. Let me show you something. Yeah? Do you want to come a bit closer? Yeah. So I can benefit from your shadow, since I gave you the prime position.
That's
right?
It, you use me.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to use you now. Right, so this is the Christian perspective. If you want to understand Christianity, what Christianity is, you've got to see it for what it really is. And this is what it says. God, after he spoke long ago to the fathers in the prophets, in many portions and in many ways, in these last days has spoken to us in his Son, whom he appointed heir to all things, through whom also he made the world. And he is the radiance of his glory and the exact representation of his nature, that upholds all things by the word of his power. God, the Father, has spoken through God, the Son. It's not the Bible that I'm inviting you to believe in, it's Jesus Christ I'm inviting you to believe in. And the Bible is telling his story. And that's why it can be translated into any language. Okay, yeah. By contrast, just for contrast's sake, so you understand the significance of what I'm trying to communicate, the Quran, by contrast, can only exist in Arabic.
Yeah, but doesn't
which means
only exist in
well,
Hebrew and then it's translated?
well, you're going to have to ask a Jew that. I'm not a Jew. I'm not here to defend or to talk about Judaism.
I didn't know if
I'm just talking as a Christian.
Yeah, actually, the Greek use the text and they translate ancient Greeks.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yes, of course. So even before Christ, the Jews translated their Old Testament into Greek, and that was what was used by most Jews around the world at the time of Jesus. They didn't use a Hebrew, they used a Greek Bible. So the answer to your question is yes, it can be translated. Now, by contrast, hay fever, the Quran only exists in Arabic. And so what you see, wherever Islam has dominated, you see Arabization. Do you want to stand a bit closer? Like, you see Arabization, right? Go to Egypt and ask,
I've been to Egypt.
yeah, what language do they speak?
Arabic.
What was their original language?
Holographs.
Coptic.
Yeah.
Coptic, right? That's the original language of Egypt. What language do they speak in Syria?
Arabic. Aramaic, yeah.
No, they speak, what the language of society is Arabic, but what was the original language of the society? Aramaic. What was the original language, what was the original language of Algeria? I'll give you a clue. Wasn't Arabic. Yeah?
I didn't even know they spoke Arabic.
What was the original language of North Sudan?
It's probably like Coptic or something like that.
It was closer to Ethiopic. It's a Nubian language, it's an African language.
Oh, okay.
What language do they speak now in North Sudan? Right? The thing about Islam is that it results in Arabization because Muslims say the Quran can't be translated. Christians say that that we English Christians, we don't have to become like a Palestinian Jew. We don't have to start speaking Aramaic. Why? Because the message can be translated. Sorry. Hay fever. No, it's just, I'll have this coughing fit and then it'll pass. I have a reaction to the pollen and then my body somehow gets used to it. The things I do for you, Kieran. Things I do for you, bro. Right? So my point to you is that Christianity says to the Ethiopian, be the best Christian Ethiopian you can. Says to the Englishman, be the best English Christian you can. Says to the Frenchman, be the best French Christian you can. It says to the Japanese, be the best Japanese Christian you can. A Muslim says the only way that you can be a good Muslim is to copy an Arab. You've got to bow to an Arabic city. You've got to pray in Arabic. You've got to read an Arabic book. And if you really want to be good in your deen, you start dressing like an Arab and talking in Arabic and using Arabic phrases and copying Arabic customs and Arabic traditions. Islam is just a colonial religion of the Arabs. And unfortunately, there are lots of people in this park who have been colonized. Their minds have been colonized. But Christianity, yes, the Europeans did colonization, but Christianity doesn't colonize cultures. Because it says the religion can be translated into your culture. I've been to Japan. Churches in Japan, guess how they portray Jesus? He looks Japanese. In Ethiopia, guess how they portray Jesus? He looks like an Ethiopian. How do you think they portray Jesus in the Middle East? As a Middle Eastern guy. And how do we portray Jesus in Europe? There you go. Because what we're saying in our art is that Jesus is relevant to all people. He's relevant to you, Kieran, he's relevant to me. He's relevant to the Eskimo in the North Pole, and he's relevant to the banker in Wall Street and central London, right? And the reason why he's relevant is because Christians follow. Would you like a tissue?
No, you set me off now.
Me and you both. The Christian faith doesn't have like laws. There's not laws. Sharia by contrast, Islam by contrast, it's all about laws. There's a way to go to the toilet. There's a way to put your shoe on. There's a way to put your trousers on. There's a way to do all of these things. And incidentally, they're all like an Arab man, right? But Christianity says, no, love as best you can in your culture. So what it means for you to love in your life looks different from what it means for a banker to love, or what an Eskimo looks like when he loves in his cold, plantless context. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So our faith is universal, it's for all mankind. Islam, by contrast, says that it's for all mankind, but really it says you've all got to be more Arab. You've all got to be more Arab. Yeah? Incidentally, the same Muslims who'll tell you that I worship 3 gods are lying to you, by the way, because I don't. Can I ask you a favour, Kieran?
Well, it's Jesus.
Yeah, can I ask you a favour? Go on, ask your question.
Holy Spirit. They're not equal. They're not one, are they?
They are one.
I mean, it was invented during the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really know that, young friend. I don't want to break your heart.
The Holy Ghost and Mother Mary. That's the truth.
Yeah. So my point to you is that all I'm going to ask you, Kieran, is this. Just one favour to ask you. Like, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not telling you what conclusions to come to. Feel free to do your open investigation. All I would ask you to do is this. If anyone who is not a Christian tells you something about Christianity, come and talk to me about it. You know where I am, you know where you can find me. So if someone says to you, the Bible's been changed, Christians believe in 3 gods, and they believe in contradictory things like God died, or, you know, that they worship Mary as a god, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
If anyone says anything like that, come and talk to me about it.
So why,
If that's a fair, is that a fair request?
Oh no, that was he stayed
But
later
then
um,
with the
don't I don't know which branch of Christianity it is. Do you pray to Mary?
Right, so there's a difference between prayer and there's a difference between what we call glorification.
But if you're praying to God. You're supposed to be praying to God.
According to who?
Is that not what the whole point of prayer is? Is
So-
to connect with God.
So let me answer that question. Yeah, let's come a bit right. So the Christians, there's a distinction between prayer and glorification.
Okay.
Prayer just means to make a supplication or a request.
Yeah.
I ask you for something, you could rightly describe that as prayer.
Okay.
So for instance, if you go on YouTube tonight and you go and look at the opening of the House of Parliament by the Queen,
Yeah.
right? When she enters into the House of Lords, year after year after year after year, she says these words, I pray ye lords be seated.
Yeah.
She's praying to them. She's literally saying, I pray ye lords be seated.
Yeah.
So prayer just means to make a request. Okay? Now, there are Christians that disagree with prayers to saints, right? They exist. They're my brothers and sisters in faith. I'll have communion with them. I'll study the Bible with them. We'll go and have fellowship together, right? But there are some Christians who believe in praying to saints. They are also my brothers and sisters. I will still go to communion with them. I'll read the Bible with them and I'll fellowship with them. But nobody teaches or believes that praying to a saint is the equivalent of the glorification of God. And it's glorification of God that is the thing that God demands of us. That's what he demands of us, is glorification. I can show you if you like. Unless you believe me.
I have to believe you. I'm
You
going
do
to
believe
have
me.
my lunch, so I'm going to...
All right, bro, can I give you, have you got a Bible at home?
I have got a Bible at home.
Right, I'd like to give you a gift.
Okay.
I'd like to give you a gift.
Any time I can, and it can show from the early church history where reference to saints happened. First 300 years, let's go. Irenaeus, Tertullian, St. Justin Moore, let's go.
Here you go, bro. So I just want to tell you, it's just a story about some Christians who went and lived an extraordinary life because of the faith that they had in Jesus. So it demonstrates the transformative power of that message, that same message that you can find in that Bible that you've got at home. So what I want to invite you to do is read that Bible and come back with your toughest questions. And then if anyone says anything about Christianity and you have time to talk to me today or next week, come and talk to me
I
about
don't know
it.
when I would actually be back here, but when I'm back here,
Fair enough. Well, you've got my card, so that means you've got my email address, you've got a means to get in touch with me.
Okay.
If you decide you want to carry on the conversation, I'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you. You look after yourself,
I do.
Kieran.
Thank you.
I'm glad we ended better than we started.
Yeah.
You look after
Alright.
yourself. God bless. Take care.
Have a good time.